Human trafficking is the fastest growing and the second largest criminal industry in the world. According to a report from the International Labour Organization, almost 25 million people are living in modern slavery. Over 75% of these are women and children. Do you know that's the equivalent of the entire population of Australia? Now, although trafficking seems to imply people moving across continents, in fact, most of the exploitation happens in domestic or regional markets, much closer to home. But nonetheless, the aviation industry has a responsibility and a great role to play in stopping this trade happening. And we welcome to the programme today Billy Shallow, who is the Manager for Smart Security for Airports Council International, ACI, based in Montreal. Billy, welcome to the programme. Now, according to the United Nations, just 1 in 100 victims of human trafficking are rescued. As an industry, are we letting people down?
Well, there are certain measures that are certainly put in place to ensure we are doing as much as possible to really not let these people down. And that starts on ICAO level, so the International Civil Aviation Organization. They set a strategy, and that's entitled the Palermo Protocol. And that makes sure that commercial aircraft aren't being used for purposes such as human trafficking. But we don't really want it just to be a paper policy. We want it to be driven on the front line by airports, airlines, and anyone involved in the aviation system to make sure that we are combating it.
Now, Billy, we're finding it very difficult to move around at the moment because of COVID-19. Has that slowed down human trafficking the earlier part of this year?
Well, I think everyone would say that less flights, people would think it would slow down human trafficking. But as a result, we actually think that there might have been an increase in human trafficking, and it's all really to do with a lot more economic hardship, certainly a lot more broken families. So there is a huge possibility that human trafficking has actually increased. And criminals will use any pandemic to really try and get ahead of the curve and use pandemics to their advantage.
So what should airports and airlines be doing to combat this $150 billion industry?
Well, so there are a number of initiatives, and they really kind of play a critical role to suppress human trafficking. And we've kind of grouped them into 4 different categories. So the first being training. It all starts with your staff being aware at an airport. And we think that are good initiatives to implement human trafficking training that can go alongside the existing mandatory trainings in security and safety that airports have to give to all employees. And it's really about trying to educate staff and show them the signs of distress, and backed up by a strong reporting culture. So training is the first kind of huge part of the program. And the second is really public awareness. So trying to engage the public, educate them that this is a huge industry, and prepare them to report suspected incidents. Now, this can come through a number of presentations, exhibits, announcements, or signage. And Atlanta Airport, who the largest in the world, had huge success because they put on a public display. They actually had 11 different real-life photos of women that were trafficked through their airports to really raise public awareness, and that had huge success. So getting the message out there, not just to staff, but to the public is of paramount importance. And then also information for victims as they pass through the airports, putting signage in strategic locations such as inside toilet cubicles, or when they go through processes such as immigration or security, and giving them confidence to really speak out to someone that's in a position to do something about it. We see that as being really important as well. And finally, it all takes kind of a collaborative approach. So there has to be a common strategy from the airport to engage with local authorities, immigration authorities, and the sharing of information and intelligence is really key in combating this. And overall, airports really have a responsibility to make sure that anyone that travels through their airport and their gateway is in a safe position to do so, and is doing so on their will.
Now, according to the UNODC, according to their report, the most common form of human trafficking is sexual exploitation, almost 80%, I think. And one of the things that I found just most incredible about that, if you look at that, the key victims are usually women or young girls, but it looks like women also make up the largest number of traffickers. So when we do this training and we expect the evil man to be there doing that, in fact, are we looking for the wrong person? So what are we doing to make sure that our profiling and our behavior checks are right?
Well, I think it all stems when you do these checks. You're not looking for a specific person, a man or a woman. You're looking for someone that is displaying ill intent, and that really comes from uh, good training in human behavioural detection. It comes from good questioning techniques from those officers that are having these one-on-one interactions, and really knowing the signs and good training in those areas. In the future, we are looking at having CCTV predictive analytics, and so we're, I guess, looking for the future, and we think this will become a lot more automated, and it should pick up people that have signs of distress, or if you're a trafficker, you're showing signs of ill intent. It is a global effort, and ACI very much is advocating at the highest levels. We always say that passengers and staff have a duty of care to report something suspicious. And for example, in a security perspective, if you were to go through an airport and you were to see something that didn't look right, then you generally report it. And we really need to shift that behavior over to human trafficking as well, to make sure that everyone is combating this practice. The ultimate goal is to really stop criminals from exploiting human trafficking, and specifically from using the aviation network as a means to do that. In terms of measurable success, we'd like to see a certain reduction of those human traffickers using the aviation network, and really just trying to make it as difficult as possible.
So that's Billy Shallow from Airports Council International. It really is a terrible business. We've learned so much recently about the impact of slavery, and this is still happening today. It's down to all of us to make that difference. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.